So this is going to be my open book, my present potential, where I share with you my honest feedback, my thoughts, my processes, the things that I'm thinking about, the things that worry me, the things that I'm learning from, the things that inspire me, and things that I want to continue developing and growing. It's really mainly just been me. So I started from scratch, from nothing about knowing or learning about how to run a podcast. Now, if I were to leave you with one thing after all of this discussion about podcasts and the process of testing, iteration, and planning, which seems like it's kind of like what this summary is about, it's really about being Welcome to Present Potential. I'm your host, Hassan, and the reason I launched this podcast is to create a ripple effect of optimism that reaches 1 billion people in the next decade. Ambitious? Very. Scary? A little bit. The aim of Present Potential is to empower listeners by sharing stories of individuals who've turned challenges into opportunities, proving that we all have untapped potential. If you're new to this podcast, welcome. If you've tuned in before, thank you for your support, and I hope you find value in these conversations. Hi, and welcome to another episode of Present Potential. I'm your host, Hassan. I thought this time to take a little bit of a turn on the podcast and to start focusing on things that I want to share with you on a weekly basis. Now, I'm going to share with you as well, like the process of how I created this podcast and the way that I've been having weekly episodes with inspiring guests and also learning on the way of things that worked and things that don't work. So this is going to be like a weekly reflection that I'm going to be sharing with you. And I'll tell you why I'm actually doing this. And this is going to be completely open and honest, and the purpose of doing it and why I'm doing it. The reason that I created this podcast is really to hear the stories of the people that want to come on and share and inspire and show us that there is potential in us every single time. And on that journey, I've reached out to a lot of people, some who are people that you might know. And the responses that I got were that once the podcast is at a certain level, maybe they can come on, which I completely understand and agree to, because they want to make sure that they come and there's an audience here that listens, engages, and grows. So this is what I decided to do. I'm going to tell you what I've been doing, and I'm going to be sharing also like my weekly reflections and anything that I want to share with you, so that it's going to be completely viable, appreciated, and also really relevant to the things that I'm working on. And it's going to be like a reflection as well with me, because to be honest, I've been reflecting on my own, and sometimes I reflect with my wife, and I think that she's had enough of me telling her things. So this is going to be my open book, my present potential, where I share with you my honest feedback, my thoughts, my processes, the things that I'm thinking about, the things that worry me, the things that I'm learning from, the things that inspire me, and things that I want to continue developing and growing. So I don't know how long this will take, but I'm aiming to completely dedicate my time for the next year since I've launched this podcast. So we launched it in August, and I want to continue posting every week on a consistent basis, whether it's with me or with other guests, until August, and we'll see where it goes. I'm going to share with you the process of how I actually created the workflow to launch this podcast and what I do in order to be able to have episodes produced weekly. So I sometimes get people to help me with the episodes, especially the videographer, who I've been working closely with when we have face-to-face engagements. But other than that, it's really mainly just been me. So I started from scratch, from nothing about knowing or learning about how to run a podcast. Now, the journey has been really exciting because I've learned a lot of things that go into podcasting and producing, and lights. As you can see, I've changed my lights, I've changed my background, I've had different lights, I have different microphones, And I'm still learning because there's so much to engage with there to make the production really viable so that you can hear the voice, so you can also see the video, so it's clear and it's engaging as well. So I started by just Googling, what is a podcast? How do you set it up? And where are the hosting platforms? And I found a couple of hosting platforms, and that's hosting platforms are basically like a, I would say, like a suitcase where you put all your clothes in and you take with you. So it's a place that you can actually record your episodes and then they be launched and released to the world. Now, in these hosting platforms, there are different packages and pricing and solutions and services. And I'm sure they'll change. And I'm not sure if they're still the same since I started this podcast. But one thing was for sure, because the platform that I started using had a limit in terms of how much I can upload per month and also how many episodes in total before they start deleting the episodes. Now, while I was doing that, I said I'll just test it for 3 months to see if it's working and if it's actually worth it or not. And 2 months into the process, I found out that there's another hosting platform that actually provides free services that you can host all the episodes there with no time limits and are really adapting to the needs of the podcasting community. And I'm very proud to say that I'm one of those podcasters. I'm part of this podcasting community. And so I really switched quickly without even thinking because it's a great platform. It works for me. It's I use it all the time. I'm not endorsed by anything that I'm going to be sharing or sponsored or anything. I'm just sharing with you honestly my journey and my feedback and the things that have worked for me. So I moved all the episodes that I've published on the first podcast hosting platform to the new one. That took some time. And doing that was still efficient and effective because I knew in the long term I can still publish more without paying, because that is also the essence of creating anything. Is it worth it? Time and money. Because there's so much time that goes into podcasting that I never knew about. It's not just about recording the episodes, it's about like creating the banner, finding what logo that I wanted to use, finding the description, also writing a vision and mission statement that I wanted to create for this podcast, and then uploading it. And not just that, but it's all that goes into it. Then there is also the organization. Now, I like to think that I'm quite organized, and this is one of the things that I really take with me in everything that I do, because I know that organizing myself has really yielded the maximum and the best results so far in terms of business, obviously. For example, when I'm uploading or creating content, one of the time delays that is consistently a challenge is finding a specific file or photo or picture or content or graph or video or anything that I want to upload. That takes time to actually find it. So I have everything organized in specific folders where I can access them very easily. I've connected everything within my workstation to be able to access them at any point in time with any machine in order to be able to deliver everything that I wanted to deliver. That said, so with all the episodes and the guests, my strategy was quite simple. What I wanted to do is to have an episode released every single month. When I started, I said I'll do it once a month. Now, when I thought about that, I began to realize like once a month would mean that it's 12 episodes a year. So if I want to achieve 100 episodes, it's going to take me a little bit more than 3 years to reach that number. So I challenged myself and I said, I'm going to be releasing an episode every single week. So that means that I'm going to be scheduling the episodes to go at a certain date and time. And before that, I'm going to be speaking like what I'm doing now, or connecting with guests that want to come onto the podcast. When we connect with guests, there's also a lot of arrangements that go into the place. First, reaching out to them and giving them like a pitch of why they can be a guest on my podcast. Now, you can go through all the guest lists that we've had, and some of the amazing guests that I've had have really supported this drive, this endeavor to create this podcast. And I'm so grateful for them because they came full heartedly and supportive and shared their story with me. And I've learned so much from them. And I carry everything that I've learned in everything that I do. So I continue to do that. So I decided that I'm going to be reaching out to people, pitching them this podcast. And I wanted to have 3 episodes of guests and then one where I come and speak on my own. This gives me the access and the ability to reflect as well once a month to give you my insights and my thoughts and also any learnings or knowledge that I come across. So it's been going great so far. And I've been speaking to a lot of interesting people. And it's also a great conversation starter. Having a podcast is an opportunity for me to invite different guests to come and speak and to share their stories and to tell me about the things that they've learned. And it's basically like a free knowledge database for me to understand things that I can learn from. So I've been reaching out to a lot of people, and a lot of people have come on. And I've met with them, we've spoken, we've discussed what we're going to speak. Then some wanted to understand what questions I'm going to be asking. So I created a template, a list of questions that we can potentially cover. Now, not necessarily that we're going to be covering these questions, because it really is an authentic conversation that I want to create with any guests that come on. Even now, I'm completely speaking with no script. I'm just speaking to you completely from my heart and also from anything that I wanted to remember and to share with you so that it's also insightful to say the least. So I've had the guests come on every single week and I created a workflow. So the first step was to actually create a list of people that I wanted to come on to the podcast. The second step was to reach out to them and to schedule a meeting. So there's a drop down in the spreadsheet that I use to say if a meeting has been scheduled or not. And then the third step would be to tick if the meeting has been done and to create a banner and also some description that will go along the episode. Now, creating a banner has also been really rewarding because I've learned so much of how I can create a process to make it as seamless and as efficient as possible. Now, remember, it's only me creating all of these things. So there needs to be a process in place that I can follow in order to make sure that it's as automated as possible. So the banners are really the same format template that I use and I just copy because that's the efficient way. I worked on one of them for hours, but then every banner I spend 5 minutes on. And that saves me a lot of time. And then I shared these banners and descriptions with my guests to get their consent and also to understand if they wanted to make any changes to the titles, to the descriptions, to add any links, to give me their insights, to even change the pictures, because I wanted to provide them with the best platform that I have in order to honor their time and energy that they're giving me when they come onto the podcast. So once the banner and the descriptions are done, this is becoming like a flow and like maybe a training as well. But like, I think it's important to share with you the insights of that. And then I used to post before the podcast is released. So that's the next step to understand what the dates are in order to be able to post the episodes at a certain increment and periodic time frame. Then the last step is to tick off that that episode has been published. And that consists of the marketing has been done, meaning that we've posted in the different social media outlets that we wanted to. We've also scheduled the episode to go out. So that's also out on the different platforms that I use, which are Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and also YouTube. And finally, to send a thank you message to all the guests that come on. Now, I've been so grateful that all the guests that have come on have been extremely efficient and also responsive in the times. Now, obviously, we had some episodes, if you've been following from the beginning, where we wanted to record the best version of whatever it is that we're recording, but the tech didn't work. So we had to scratch that and do it all over again. So with that, I'm also very grateful for those guests who've taken the time to do it again. So you might have noticed that there's a lot that goes into podcasting. And this is not to mention also the video editing, because once this is recorded, I then download the video and I upload it onto an application and I do the editing there. So when I started, there was no intros and there were no outros and there were no trailers as well. But what I quickly noticed is that the audience loved to see a teaser of what they can expect when we go into the episode. So I learned how to do that. And I've created all of the trailers, except 1 or 2, on my own. And that's been a great learning experience. One thing which it has also helped me to understand was when I go through those trailers, I actually watch the episodes all over again. So I watch how I deliver the questions and also the insights and the collaboration between me and guests. And I also learn more from the guests because I'm listening to it all over again. And I create trailers so that I can give a sense of what it is that we're watching or learning or connecting with. That takes time as well, but it's all part of this process. Nothing easy is worth spending. I don't even know how to say it. Anything worth doing is not easy. And it's been so clear to me when I started this journey of creating some sort of platform to share stories of the potential in the present moment that we have, of learning more about the capabilities that I can do and the things that I'm able to do and I'm not able to do. And the process and the journey continue to grow. But one thing that I still remember and can still reflect on, and it still works because it is so important, is that there's a lot of iteration, there's a lot of testing, and a lot of feedback. When I first launched this, I felt like it was more about me trying to come out of my comfort zone to speak to the public and to share my message and to invite guests. Now, along the way, and I don't know really when that happened, but that rhetoric started to flip. So this is no longer about me. This is nothing that really encapsulates who I am and what I do and the things that I wanted to do in the world. My voice, my ability, my communication is only important if it is clear for you. So everything that I am doing from now on is completely for you, for others. I've always said that I do serve others, but I've noticed that there's been this switch, and I don't know what happened for me to feel that there was this switch. Maybe it's realizing that we have so much more capabilities and power in our grasp, in our hands, that we can do the things that seem challenging and impossible at first, and then we actually do them. And that's what I did with this podcast. It's still in its infancy stage. It's still a baby. It's still really young. We have almost 30 episodes, which I'm really grateful for. And if I did release an episode every month, I'm already exceeding that target for the first year. So I'm already grateful and I feel like I've succeeded in anything that I wanted to do. But the story continues. And it's so important for me to do this because it's a discipline that I've created and a commitment for me to continue building these episodes and these maybe this series as well as we go along. Now, not a lot of podcasters might say this, or maybe they do, and I don't listen very clearly or haven't come across different podcasts, but podcasting is such a joyful journey. And the joy in the process is actually the conversations that we get to have with our guests. Now, if I were to sum that into a clock and just to see how much time we spent based on everything else and then the episode and the recording, I would say if in 60 minutes I had to break down everything that goes into it, maybe 15 minutes goes into the planning, another 15 minutes goes into the logistics, so like the banner and the description, and probably 20 minutes goes into the editing and the producing of the episodes. And the last 10 minutes, or even less than 10 minutes, is the actual conversations that we get to have with people. And it's so great because, like, I I feel comfortable speaking to a camera now. And this is taking me a little bit of time to get used to it. But when my guests come on the podcast, I sense that sometimes they feel uncomfortable, but they still deliver the message that they want to deliver. And I'm so inspired with that because I feel so grateful that they feel comfortable enough to be able to share the message that they want with our audience. And our audience is actually growing. It might not be growing as much as other podcasts who have been released, but it's growing. And every single person who tunes in every single week to listen and to watch or to connect is such a blessing. It's so great to hear. And it's so wonderful to also connect with amazing people, to learn from them, to engage, and to also know that the words that we share and the way that we communicate matter. It's so important to do that. And regardless of what happens within my journey, and also that switch that happens and where I notice that I'm serving you even more, one thing will always be authentic and always be clear is that my optimistic demeanor will always be there. I will find a way because I have such a deep belief that there are solutions to every single problem. So whenever I share anything, any reflections that I have, any experiences that I come across, I will always make sure that I keep that demeanor because it serves me and it's been serving me significantly well. Now, there's been times in the podcast where I've had moments of frustration where I deleted some files without finalizing the editing and I pulled my hair, even though I don't have any more hair, because I made big mistakes that really hurts the time and the investment that I'm putting into this podcast. There have been times as well where things have been challenging, where I didn't know where the conversations were going. And that's natural. And it's great to be part of that opportunity of learning. Now, one thing I also admire and I continue to bring with me in every single episode and things that I do is noticing other podcasters, other podcasts, other people who ask questions in interview style, because I want to be a I want to create that platform where people can share the message as best as they can. I've had experiences where I thought that I asked questions and they were not very significant. And that was a great learning experience because it made me understand that this platform is not for me to share. It's not for me to be talking about myself. It's a platform for me to share knowledge, experiences, and the potential that we have in everything and anything that we do. So as you can see, like I'm just talking on my own here. I have no agenda. I don't have an outline or anything to really cover or to share in terms of the podcast. But I thought about just sharing with you the process of how it goes into it. Now, the most important thing that really helped me with creating this sequence and also making sure that I post on a certain time and a certain time frame was scheduling the podcast within my calendar. So if you were to see my calendar, you would see different colors for the different events and schedules that I have. For example, I have purple as business development, I have blue as coaching, I have yellow for my podcast, and then I have green for follow-ups and tasks. This gives me an indication of what I need to do. And I also have like regular meetings and schedules that I have in my calendar that I do every single day. For example, LinkedIn. I dedicate at least 1 hour to spend on LinkedIn to comment, to message, to reach out to people because it's one of the platforms and the main platform that I'm using now to expand my network and to increase the exposure. What I do as well is every month, I regularly review some of my values, and every week I go through my own business review. So I look at the coaching sessions that I had, the podcasting episodes that we've done, and what we need to do next week. I also look at all my finances. I also schedule anything that I need to schedule with the business side of things, whether it's with the accountants or with the other counterparties that I'm working with. And it's also a chance for me to check my applications. So I get to see which applications are serving me and whether I want to continue investing in them or not. So the reason I'm sharing this with you is because the podcast has a place in my work schedule every single week. I know exactly when the episodes go out, and I know exactly when I have time to edit the videos in order to be able to schedule them to go out. Because I'm doing everything on my own, so it's so important to have that dedication. And there are times that I feel like I don't want to do it. I feel like there is no energy for me to be able to edit any video or create a new episode or to reach out to people. I feel that, but I continue doing it anyway. It's become a non-negotiable. It's an automated process that I just continue to follow without question because it's so important. And if I were to expect to follow certain things and to see episodes released at a certain time, then I would expect the same of me. And I put myself to a higher pedestal because I want to deliver the best message, the best services that I possibly can. And that's why I continue to invest in myself. That's why I continue to invest in equipment. It costs a lot, but it's okay because it's helping to deliver the message. Now, if I were to leave you with one thing after all of this discussion about podcasts and the process of testing, iteration, and planning, which seems like it's kind of like what this summary is about. It's really about being able to trust yourself. Trust yourself. Trusting yourself to do the things that might seem so hard at the beginning, that might seem like it's a challenge. It's like climbing mountains. And I've had a guest who talks about climbing mountains. Every single step of the way is giving you that ability to crawl closer to the summits that you wanted to go to. And I'll add to that that it's so important to test along the way, to see what is working, to see what can be improved. And it's not only done through like an internal reference of what you think is working or not. It's also really important to get external feedback from people who are important, whose voice really resonates with the things that you're doing. And that's what I do as well. I ask for feedback because I want to learn what works and what doesn't work. So with that, I leave you with a little bit of reflections from my process and the podcast that I've created. There's a lot that goes into it that I haven't shared yet. But for the next few weeks or months, I don't know if I really want to commit to that, but I will commit that I will continue to releasing an episode every single week, regardless if we have a guest or not, regardless if I feel like speaking or not, regardless if it is an important topic or not. It's just that discipline of knowing that this is part of my weekly system and process. And I thank you so much for tuning in. And as always, remember that today is the most important day of your life. Until next time. Thank you for watching and listening to Present Potential. If you found value in this episode, please give it a like, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more. Join the conversation in the comments and let us know your biggest takeaway. If you'd like to listen to other inspiring stories, check out our other episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Make sure to also follow us on Instagram under Present Potential Podcast, where you get to see behind the scenes and engage with us.